All right, let's jump right in. Today we are tackling a huge topic, one that can feel pretty out there. Get ready, because we're going to get into what I'm calling the quantum build.
You know, the source for this explainer starts with a line that it hits the nail on the head. Quantum computing feels like this super complex thing, right? Like you have to be a rocket scientist to even start to get it. It seems totally out of reach for the rest of us. But what if it doesn't have to be?
Okay, so where do you even begin with something this big? Well, the best way to think about it is like we're heading into uncharted territory. We're explorers, basically, stepping into the quantum frontier.
So, to get our bearings on this new map, we need to understand the absolute fundamental difference. See, the computer or phone you're using right now, it runs on bits. And bits are super simple. They're either on or off, a 1 or a 0. That's it. But quantum computing, that's a whole other ballgame. Its basic building block is the qubit. And the crazy thing about a qubit is that it's not just stuck being a 1 or a 0. Thanks to this wild idea called superposition, it can actually be both at the same time. And that one little fact, that's the key that unlocks all its mind-blowing power.
Okay, I know what you're thinking. Both at the same time? That sounds impossible, right? It can feel super daunting, but stick with me because the whole point of this explainer, the promise it makes, is that we are going to demystify this world.
And look, the goal here isn't to turn you into a quantum physicist by the end of this. It's about cutting through all the crazy technical jargon to get to the core ideas. We just want to make this whole thing, well, clearer, easier to get your head around.
So how are we going to do that? This is the cool part. We're not just going to talk about quantum computing, we're actually going to build one in our heads. We're going to go on what I'm calling the assembly journey. Right, so this isn't about wires and hardware. It's a conceptual build, a mental model. We've already laid the foundation, right? That was the qubit. So what's next? The next step in any build is to start connecting the pieces. And the whole point of this journey, the end goal, is to walk away with some real insight. Okay, so let's grab the next part for our mental machine. It's a concept called entanglement. And even Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. It's this bizarre, invisible link between two or more qubits. Once they're entangled, they're connected. I mean, really connected. So much so that if you look at one, you instantly know what the other one is doing, even if it's on the other side of the universe. It's this incredible connection that lets quantum computers do things that our regular computers could only dream of.
All right, let's pause for a second. I get it. Superposition, spooky links, building a computer in our minds, it all sounds a bit like science fiction. And it's totally fair to be asking, so what? Is any of this actually practical? Does it connect to the real world at all?
And that's a perfect question, because it brings us to the next really important part of our build. We have to ground all this theory in reality. It's time to face the practicalities. So this is where our conceptual build gets real. Yeah, the tech is absolutely cutting edge, but the point is to see what it can do. Take something like creating new medicines. It's unbelievably hard because you have to figure out how these incredibly complex molecules will act. Our best supercomputers today, they just can't do it. They choke on the complexity. But a quantum computer, using those ideas of superposition and entanglement we just talked about, it could model those molecules perfectly. I mean, think about it. That could completely change how we discover new drugs. Now that is a practical application.
And just like that, our conceptual build is pretty much done. We started out looking at this huge, intimidating frontier, but by just assembling a few key ideas piece by piece, we've actually built our way to a new understanding.
So, let's step back. What did we actually put together here? Not a physical machine, obviously. We built a framework in our minds, a new way of looking at things. We took these weird concepts like qubits and entanglement and used them to build a perspective that hopefully makes this whole topic feel a lot less out there.
You remember where we started, right? With that quote about this subject feeling out of reach? By turning it into a journey, into a build, we've hopefully brought it a little closer. Look, it's still a massively complex field, for sure, but it's not an impossible one. It's a frontier that we can actually start to map out for ourselves.
So that really just leaves us with one final thought to chew on. We've peeled back a couple layers of the mystery here, right? We've built a basic mental toolkit to start understanding it. So the big question is, now that quantum computing is a little bit demystified, what's next?